Hello one and all, welcome to Ren on Deck, and this is my second episode. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Steam Deck 1 year after its release. My baby is all grown up now. Okay, so I've had this device for, as I struggle to get it out, for about, I would say about 5 months now. Now if you're a person that loves tinkering with stuff like I do, then this is for you. This is exactly for you. This is probably the best purchase you could ever make. I know it was for me. I have the mid-tier, which does not come with the anti-glare, so please excuse my ugly mug in the screen there. But yeah, there's also a higher tier model that does have the anti-glare screen. So mine comes with a 256 gigabyte SSD. There's also a base tier that's 64 gigs and comes on eMMC. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and boot this thing up and kind of show you what I've done with it, my gripes with it, which there's not too many, but all the things that I love about it as well. One really cool thing that I've done, you'll see right here in a moment, is I have custom boot animations that play and they shuffle every time you turn off the device, turn it back on. You're going to get a new animation that I've downloaded. So this one here, it's got kind of like a, Fallout 4 kind of vibe. Pretty cool. And then, yeah, if I go into the side menu here, you can see I've installed this right here. It's called Decky, and it's like a storefront, I guess, for you to kind of look through all these different mods, install the ones that you'd like, and they do a lot of really cool things. For example, if I go to a random game like Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 here, I have this add-on. It's called Proton DB Badges. So right there, you can see it's rated gold on Proton DB. It's basically another kind of layer just to show you if things are going to run on the Steam Deck, how well they'll run, even if it's unsupported on Steam's official servers. And a lot of these comments here will tell you what things don't work, what things do work, what kind of tweaks you need to make to get the game running as smooth as possible or save on battery life. So that's pretty cool. So as you can see, Steam officially rated this as unsupported. So they don't recommend you download the game. So yeah, it's a pretty cool add-on. It's just an example of one of the many different things you can do. My personal favorite is Vibrant Deck, which I don't know if you're going to be able to see it through this camera here. This is just my iPhone 8 Plus, so it's an old camera. It's kind of hard to see. You can increase the saturation. Now you can definitely see that, I'm sure. Bring it back down to whatever I had it at. I guess around like 150, 160. But yeah, add some color to the Steam Deck. Almost like an HDR type of thing. I don't know if that's the right comparison, but oh well. We're going to run with it. So yeah. Custom boot animations, custom plugins. These things are awesome. I would say it's almost a must to get this. Like there's a Bluetooth one here, for example. Instead of having to go all the way into your Bluetooth settings within the Deck's menu itself, it takes a while to get there. I can just go in here and connect to my AirPods. So AirPods connected. There we go. To move on though, here's my biggest complaint, and this is kind of an individual kind of experience. It is that the right trigger is a little bit mushy when you press it down. Excuse my fat fingers. But here's the left trigger. And it sounds normal, right? If I go to the right trigger here, it's a little bit mushy. I don't know how to explain it. Like that easily is, I can tell you for sure, is just a simple gripe on my end. I doubt most people would notice. But I've heard that in some of these models, the right trigger can kind of make contact with the housing. So possibly that's what's going on. I'm not entirely sure. But it doesn't interfere with the gameplay. I went in, checked the calibration, all that kind of stuff. It works great. Moving on here. One of my favorite things about the Steam Deck is that it has cloud safe support, which it's kind of a gimme. Steam has always had cloud saves through the desktop and things of that nature. But yeah, like Half-Life 2 here, as you can see, Steam Cloud up to date. So if I play it on my Steam Deck right here, or if I play something like Final Fantasy VII even, like the newer games, you're going to see that, I can go in, I can play the game, I can save it, and then I can get on my PC and continue right where I left off. So it's great on, nights that I have to go to bed kind of early and I'm not quite ready yet and I want to play something in bed. This is excellent for that. So the next thing, this is my favorite part. I love emulating here on the Steam Deck. There are a lot of things you can emulate. And by the way, these aren't native Steam apps per se. So what I did is I have a plugin that you can go in. You can change the artwork for each of your custom apps that you've added to Steam, like the non-Steam games to your library. And you can add custom artwork here that other users have uploaded, and that is also part of Decky. So there's like a PS2 emulator right here. You can go in. It works a lot like, standard Windows, Linux emulator. You kind of just load up your ISOs, your ROMs, and you get going. Yeah, you can customize like the back grip buttons here and control any game with that, including your emulators. Dragon Ball Z, Budokai Tenkaichi 3. I have my AirPods in right now, as we saw earlier when I enabled them. So you're not going to be able to hear it. But even right here, you've got a custom radial menu that you can use, which is pretty cool. Everything runs pretty great. I've got it running just at pretty much software settings. But we're going to go ahead and get back out here and talk about some other stuff. Now, the battery life. The battery life on this guy, I'm not going to lie, it's not great. So, if we go into Final Fantasy VII Remake here, this is a game I've been playing a crap ton right now. It's an excellent game. So, we're in the game now. And this is an area of the game that is particularly very demanding in terms of the graphics. There's a lot of character models, a lot of effects going on. The game runs pretty darn good, even with these limits. So if I turn off the per game profile, which is going to take me back to my default settings, it's going to be 60 frames per second. Let's see, I believe I do have the graphics set to 60 FPS. So let's see. It looks pretty decent. There's some stutters, as you can see. If you're not running at 40 frames per second, or if you're running in a particularly demanding area of the game, you're going to see a lot of that. But it's a very much playable experience. Really cool. And I think I've got just like the shadow effects turned down to low, but the textures turned up to high. And still handles it like a champ. But if you take off that frame limit, now we're estimated at just an hour and a half of battery life, which is not good at all. So if you want to maximize that, then you're definitely going to want to do things like I've mentioned here, like lowering the refresh rate and the TDP limit. So that you can see it's climbing back up. Probably get a good, 3 hours of gameplay now with those settings. So let's go ahead and back out of Final Fantasy and talk about some other stuff here. So, speaking of the battery life, here's my biggest gripe with that. Not necessarily the battery life itself. This is a mini gaming PC, a portable gaming PC that is smaller than a laptop, and it can play games like Final Fantasy VII there. So, no complaints there. My complaint is with this charger cable. Now, it's pretty well built. It seems really safe to use, but the length of the cable, it's kind of hard to show in a video this kind of close up here, but I believe this is like a 6-foot cable, which is standard for most devices, but I've noticed for me personally in my particular situation, when I'm laying in bed playing a game, the outlet is pretty close to my bed, but the cord is still not nearly long enough to actually be able to just kind of lay down and relax in bed and play it. I think it was kind of a similar thing with like the Nintendo Switch. So the Steam Deck is not the only culprit here, but that would be, if there was something I could change about the Steam Deck, that is definitely one of the top things. The other thing would probably be the file system. Now I'm not going to get too far into it for the people that are just more of like, casual Steam Deck players, but if you are in the desktop mode, messing around with stuff, going into your game installs, things like that, you're going to notice that the file structure is kind of atrocious. Things aren't, games aren't directly labeled what they are, so you don't know how to get to certain game install folders to like install mods or things like that, or even uninstall some games that like aren't native to Steam, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mentioned emulation earlier, so you can emulate pretty much almost anything. I've emulated up to the PlayStation 3 and 360. I'm assuming the PlayStation 4 it's probably not going to work. Those usually don't work. Those emulators usually don't work very well on PC. But yeah, here is an old DOS game that you can buy on Steam. It's called XCOM. You might have heard of XCOM before. I'm going to turn this down. You might have heard of XCOM before. They rebooted it into a 3D strategy game for the PS3, PS4, things of that nature. But this is the original game that played on DOS. So, pretty cool. And I'm running it through what is called a source port, which basically they took all the original game files and made it to where it runs on more native hardware. You can change to modern display resolution. So, the Steam Deck screen is 1280 by 800. Yeah, you can kind of customize all this stuff and even load up I have the original game and the expansion. And you can do mods. I don't know if it's an expansion technically. This is the, I guess like a sequel that takes place in the ocean. Pretty cool. But yeah. Now, OpenXCOM and PCSX2, the PlayStation 2 emulator, those aren't going to be the only emulators I'm going to talk about. I'm also going to talk about other things like Dolphin here. So this can run GameCube and Wii games. So I've got Super Mario Sunshine, Zelda Wind Waker, and the really cool thing about these kinds of things is you can download mods that'll let the game run in a widescreen aspect ratio. So, yeah, there's one other con that I can think of, and that is the resolution itself. It's 1280 by 800. It's a 16 by 10 aspect ratio. So when you run certain games, like this one here, I don't know if you can see, the bezel kind of hides it, but you can see the frame counter up top there. There is like a black strip at the top and bottom of the screen. So because the Steam Deck runs in a 16 by 10 aspect ratio, you're going to get those black bars, and they're not great. So a lot of games will do that because they don't have a native 16 by 10 mode. So, yeah. As you can see, we're running 60 frames. And, yeah, even with this mod, some things, there's some graphical artifacts, but overall, it's pretty great. It's pretty similar to the Mario 3D All-Stars port on the Switch. I would even argue a little bit better from when I originally played it during the launch, because the cool thing about this, at least this emulator, is you can half pull the trigger here and run around using the water, or if you full pull it, like the original GameCube triggers, then you stay in one spot, and you can kind of aim everywhere that you want to. So it's pretty neat. Overall, great experience though. Runs really good. Gonna show off just a couple more here. I'm having fun. So there's like a GTA 2. This is the Windows 98 version. Not really gonna get into it right now, but you can also mod a lot of your games, whether they're original Steam games or not. So here's GZ Doom. I have it modded to run Brutal Doom, which is, in my opinion, one of the best shooters ever made. Like, this mod is pretty nuts. And so I mentioned the back grip buttons earlier, but you also have gyro. So by me just touching this touchpad here, I'm not even moving anything. If I move up and down, left and right, as you can see, as you can see, I can aim wherever I'd like to, and this also works in games like Half-Life 2, pretty much any game that's a first-person shooter. There should be a workaround to getting the gyro aim and working. Yeah, Little Doom. Look away, kids. Yeah, it runs pretty simply. Again, any game that you download, you can go into these layouts here, and you can make your own first of all, of course, but you can also go in and download somebody else's custom controls for it, which for some reason right now, okay, there we go, we're loading in. And yeah, there's a bunch of other ones that people have made here, which is an excellent aspect of the Steam Deck, is the community and all the work that they do to get really cool stuff going here. So, yeah, pretty sweet. Can't go wrong with a little Brutal Doom, you know? Wanted to showcase one last thing here in regards to the gyro, and that would be, I've got GoldenEye and I've got Perfect Dark from the N64, and this is just yet another great example of the cool modding that you can do on the go. Now, you can do this on your PC, of course, but you can't really do the gyro aiming unless you have a controller like the Switch Pro controller or something like that. The Xbox One controller doesn't do it. But yeah, you can get into a game like this, an N64 game. Oops. You can get into an N64 game here, and you know, get 16:9 widescreen support again. Actually, this might be. Oh, this is running at the full 1610 of the Steam Deck, which is pretty cool. But yeah, again, if I hold down the LT here, I'm not using the sticks. I'm just aiming myself, which is pretty darn cool. So let's go get us a bad guy here. Uh-oh, someone see me? I'm a terrible spy. Oh, it's a person. Oh god, they got the alarm. Using a gyro. Pretty cool. Love Perfect Dark. This game doesn't get enough love. I know GoldenEye is incredible. We all love it. It's an amazing game, groundbreaking. But Perfect Dark kind of took what that had and expanded on it, made a more futuristic game with better, smoother controls. And by the way, this is running at 60 FPS as well. This game natively ran like trash. Like, especially without the expansion pack, you'd probably get normally like 15, 20 frames, it seemed like. But yeah, runs really good on the deck. Now, the game compatibility is pretty good, as I mentioned earlier. If there's a game that you want to play, I even played Microprose's Magic the Gathering from, I think it was like 1997 on Windows 95. I got that running on this thing here, which I would have never thought possible. But yeah. So there's older games that you can get, there's newer games that you can get, and most of them should run pretty well. They have the verified icon here that tells you if it's going to be able to run the game or not, as you saw earlier with Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, which it said it was not supported, but the only reason it says that is because the easy anti-cheat that this game launches with, that app, that program, doesn't have a fully working Linux version of it. So yeah, you're not going to be able to play online on this particular game. There's other games that are like that as well. But thankfully, the game does run pretty good on its own, just offline. So here we go, game's loading in. Pretty quick loading time, maybe. Yeah.
With your power, you can't possibly beat me. I know about that.
So this game's definitely a button masher. But as you can see on the top left there, 60 frames. Pretty awesome. Boom. Take that, Piccolo. So one thing I did mention earlier with Final Fantasy VII was there was a few things that you could do to get the game running at a better battery life and a better frame rate, but that might not be enough for some people. So you can always go and download the original Final Fantasy VII PC port on Steam, and that also works pretty darn good, as you shall see in a moment here. So some games will come up with with an external launcher here, and you can customize things. I'm just going to go ahead and hit play here. So yeah, that basically sums up my thoughts on the Steam Deck here. In my opinion, this is the best device that I've ever bought. I highly recommend it, even over something like the Switch. I know the Switch has cool things like it's not the Virtual Console anymore, right? The Nintendo Switch Online, like Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like you can go in here and you can load, ROM hacks, you can load just original games, and they should all run pretty fantastically. Pokemon Fire Red here. Looks great. So, it's not quite as pick up and play as something like a Nintendo Switch. There is going to be some tinkering, some tweaking that you might need to do, especially if you're not running the verified games. But yeah, this is an excellent start for the massive market of portable PC gaming. Valve has definitely opened up that door and did an excellent job with that. So, yeah, I highly recommend picking this thing up. Again, I don't know how many times I can say that, but yeah, thanks guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.